everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Carolyn Talks. And this is a segment for So Here's What Happened as my coverage for this year's 2021 Fantasia Film Festival. And my first film for the festival actually is Baby Don't Cry, which is what we will be discussing today. And I have my guests for the film. So I have producer Qiyou Zhou. Hi.
Hi.
Then lead actor Vas Provatakis.
Hello.
Producer Zeron Zhao.
Hello.
And writer and creator and lead actress in the film, Zita Bai.
Hi guys.
Bye. So I'm gonna go in the order that you guys appear on my screen. So I'll go with Zita first. Can you just introduce yourselves? And then it will be Zeron, Vas, and Qiyou.
Yeah, hi. My name is Zita Bai. I'm the writer, creator, and lead actress in feature film Baby Don't Cry, and very excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Zeron Zhao. I'm the producer of the film Baby Don't Cry, and thank you very much for joining us.
Hi, my name is Vas Provatakis. I am an actor in Baby Don't Cry, and I play Fox, and I'm very happy to be here.
Hello everyone, my name is Qiyou. I'm the producer and creative producer of Baby Don't Cry. Glad to having this time sharing our movie with you.
Thank you so much for talking with me. So my first question is going to be for Zita. So can you just talk a bit about your conception for this film and when the idea for it first came to you? Because I think the film is, to me, kind of like a bit surrealistic, and it also has a bit of fantasy genre to it. So could you just tell me a bit about how you came up with the concept for the film?
I feel like the fantasy is coming from, as we're growing up, we're going through a lot of coming of age and changing defining moments in our life, and at the time we didn't quite understood what we were going through. And I guess fantasy and experimental just helped me to analyze what I was processing at the time. And also sometimes I feel like as a teenager, and what we see is different than how things actually happen. Like we fabricate truth in our head. Is like later, like when we are in our 20s, we realize, did that really happen, or that's just how I felt at the moment.
Yeah, I got the sense of there were moments, I think, especially the scenes that take place at home, where I feel like 50% of what we see isn't reality. A lot of it comes from a lot of it is her own imagination, or what she wishes her home life could be, or maybe even what she wishes it wasn't, because a lot of not so good things happen. And I just thought it was interesting. I'm just like, the young mind in particular is very I think we're able to conceptualize a lot of things as teenagers, especially when we find ourselves in tough spots. So I found it interesting the way Baby kind of moves through life, and especially and her relationship with Fox. So Vas, can you talk a bit about what was your first impression of him when you read the script? Because I'm always interested with performers when they read the script, what's how they, you say you want to play the role, but then if there's something about the character you're kind of hesitant, and you're not too sure about the character, but that you say, okay, despite how I feel about this, I as a performer have to get outside my own personal feelings and then just play the character that's written for me.
Yeah, well, I think he always felt emotionally volatile. That was just kind of what jumped off the page at first. Like the auditions that they had Zita and I do, it was it was I think one of them was the fight scene, the argument that they have, about halfway through the film. And they allowed me to kind of go free and riff and stuff. And and I feel like what they were looking for was just someone who, a young man who just didn't know how to handle himself, because he, for whatever reason, didn't understand how to respect people. He didn't have the cultural exposure, excuse me, to be able to understand what she might be going through. So he's just completely in his own world. And I think by the journey that he ends up going through is he learns how to sort of remove himself and think for other people, learn to kind of be there for others as opposed to just there for himself, and I think it was a very important lesson for him.
Very well said. I feel like the story in the end is about growing up, and stories about like two kids from like broken families and didn't have a lot of love and support growing up, so they didn't quite stood, what's the correct way to love someone. And in the end, the characters found that courage to help each other grow out of it. Yeah, I think that was very precious.
Yeah. So for Zeron and Qiyou, can you talk a bit about how both of you became involved in the project, and what was it about the project that caught your interest and made you want to work with this film?
Yeah, first of all, we started with the story because Zita and I know each other because, well, she's a writer and I'm a director. And she was at the beginning, she was more about asking for notes on, hey, take a look at the script that I wrote. And I read it. I was like super surprised, and really like we had really long conversation over the phone for so many nights and days. And eventually like after a few months back and forth conversations like this, and she was looking for someone she can really trust to produce the film, to kind of protect this baby and to make sure it can grow up healthily. And so I just said, okay, regardless what my profession is, I would want to make this movie come true with you. Let's just do it. So I jumped on board as a producer. It was because of how brilliant the script is, and also how just Zita and her personality really, really encouraged and influenced me, like made me want to do this film with her.
Yeah, we were actually having all the passions in the world to gather around all the people we have into this film. Well, I was jumping into this project. They already taking this script for a year to actually finish it. And while I was jumping in, they already started ready to make this film as all the scripts sides done. So after this script size, we are trying to make this film finished. So we have to controlling our budget, we have to calling our crews, we have to figure out all the plans. Either we're shooting in LA or we're shooting in Seattle or something like that. And that's something that bring all us together for the next adventure.
And you mentioned the location, so I wanted to ask, why Seattle? What was it about the location that you chose that worked for this story and for the film in particular? Because I've never been to Seattle, but from what I've seen on TV and from people that I know, like Seattle is very wet. Like it rains like a lot. I would say almost it's like the British side of North America. So I kind of saw like the dreariness kind of like reflected, kind of like an environmental reflection of the storyline, because it is a very kind of sort of depressing story. And I kind of saw the environment kind of like matching that. So could you just tell me a bit about selecting the city and then where the town or wherever it is you filmed?
Zita goes first, all right? Because it's really related to her.
Yeah, the story is like very true to like how I was growing up in Seattle. I was born and raised in China. I moved to Seattle as a young teen, and I just feel like, growing up in a super industrial city, had no family, no friends, and I know it sounds really sad, but
I'm an immigrant too, so I get it.
Yeah, where are you from?
I'm from Barbados.
Oh wow, power to all the immigrants. Yeah, so I feel like, when I initially wrote the story, I was very insistent on going back to my roots, going back to the city where I first immigrated to. And I just feel like, a lot of my personalities and, who I am is shaped by Seattle. And I wanted to dedicate this film to the city that gave me so much. And also, I just feel like, as you mentioned, the rainy, grungy element of the city can be a really interesting backdrop for a coming of age story where a girl is trying the hardest to find who she is.
Yeah, just imagine if this movie shooting in LA is sunny all day. It does not fit in the film.
Happy fox and happy baby.
It'll be like more than like everything is super hot. I'm depressed and I'm hot.
Actually, we add that material into the film because baby want to go to LA to be a filmmaker. That's something that she always dreamed of, and that's in that sunny day she finally made this film. That's made her remind her old days. That's something into our film.
Very, very true. I think the story is about a journey of an immigrant growing out of her, cutting off her ties and growing out of her old self in order to be a like independent, strong woman. And I just feel like we wanted to capture where she was and where she ended up.
With regards to the aspect of being an immigrant, I found maybe I was reading it wrong, but to me, I thought it was kind of interesting that there aren't really like clear cut references to her Chinese heritage. The one thing that I kept focusing on was like when the baby wears the white dress with the red and gold bow, and then her mom having the pig's ears. I'm like, maybe that's a reference to to the Chinese zodiac and like in mythology. But I was looking for other things. Like for me, like I have a flag of a Barbadian flag in my living room, but then I really don't have that much things referencing Barbados beyond like my sister and I speaking in our own dialect and accent at home and like small little things. But then I thought it was interesting that we don't really get like like a big symbol of baby's heritage.
Mm. I found that's a rather bold idea, and Zita and our director Jesse made together to having mommy's year as a piggy year, because it was because like going back to the movie is more half real, half fantasized. It's more like how she feels when mommy giving her that pressure, and like how mother was in her eyes when she was in a certain situations. And if you're careful enough when you're watching the film, you'll notice that the pig ear isn't in everything, and it's there sometimes, especially when she's oppressed the most.
Yeah, we was trying to make our audience think. So what is real? What is unreal to her? And this actually shows her fantasy into this film with something like having the ear or having fox or some animation that's girls' fantasy. Yeah, that's like throughout our film.
Talking about like what's real, what's not real, I think what's important is like how she feels, because a lot of times there's difference between what's truly happening and what we're truly feeling. And I think the fantasy part really enhanced baby's perspective, how she sees the world. Because talking about my background, when I first moved to the States, I didn't speak English, and maybe whatever I was seeing, whatever I was feeling is not what's actually happening, because I had to fabricate the truth in my head, and I had to comprehend the truth in my way in order to understand my situation.
Right, because there's some scenes with baby and some other girls at her school, and one thing that I find, like, especially if you're going to talk about the immigrant experiences, that we become disillusioned of what we think being an immigrant in North America will be. I'm in Toronto, but I think it would qualify a lot across North America in particular, where like growing up we would have heard, oh, America is the country where dreams are made, like the streets are paved with gold, that kind of thing. And then you move and then you're like, yeah, like there's racism, bigotry, and all of these things. And then like to experience that, I think as a teenager, I moved as an adult, but I think to experience those things as a teenager when you're going through hormonal changes, which is something that baby's experiencing too. She's going through, she's finding herself sexually and where she's going to be as an adult and finding her identity. And then to have all of that, and then she's meeting Fox, this person I think who's an enigma to her, and he's like unlike anyone that she knows in her sphere. And it's like she's caught up in this storm of like, I don't know what to do and she just kind of like goes along with things that as they happen, because she's like, I don't want to have to make certain decisions, so she just kind of like tumbles along with Fox, especially in
I
particular.
feel like the how the initial attraction happened in Baby on Fox, because they were from like broken families. They
Yeah.
realized how vulnerable and how longing for love they both were. I feel like that was very attractive to both of them, because it's like, you're broken, I'm broken, let's try to be strong together. And in the end, I just feel like Fox served as a strong force for her to be more firm about who she is, and be more like confident in cutting her ties with her childhood and grow up on her own.
I love how you said that Fox was like an enigma to Baby, because actually I feel like it was the same exact thing, like the reciprocal was the same, it was the same. I think he's never seen anyone that's looked like Baby. I don't think he's never had someone in his life who persisted in loving him as much as she did. So it's like every missing piece that he needed to become a better man, she came and filled for him at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. I was actually gonna ask you about that, because the thing with Baby is that she's young, she's 17, but she also, despite a lot of the confusion that she may have, she does, to me, seem to have a very strong personality, where she's kind of forceful in anything that she puts her mind to. And she put everything she had into pursuing Fox. So Vas, could you just tell me a bit about playing the scenes, but both of you and Zita can tell me a bit about playing the scenes where you kind of have like these acrimonious moments where you're kind of like, you're like fighting with each other, but then it kind of like switches tone. And so just tell me a bit about playing those scenes in particular.
Yeah, so I think that from the beginning, Fox and Baby were supposed to have like a very symbiotic relationship. They're supposed to sort of like be in each other's heads all the time. And, so it's like all their vulnerabilities, they were, I believe that when we love someone, we don't just open up, we can be with them physically, but we also open up parts of our spirit and our heart to them as well. And, we feel things that they're going through, sort of like, through our mind and through our own feelings, so you have these two people who have never really experienced like a balanced love, and they don't know how to handle each other, and they're just going off of the whim of their own feelings all the time, and I think that Zita was a very Zita, you are a very generous actor, so when we get to do scenes together, it's always like a dialogue, it's always a conversation. We're always trying to figure out, how can we make this feel real, how can we get from point A to point B and feel like we've told a story just in this one scene. And another thing that I really loved about this film is Jesse allowed us a lot of opportunities to riff and just kind of find it with each other. We didn't have to stick to the script like it was the Bible. So we just kind of went with how we felt, and it created like very visceral moments. It felt like we were really in each other's heads at a certain point.
Speaking to that, like I feel like our director Jesse truly gave me and Vas like so much trust and support, and he would just like just fall in love, just be kids, and just like be vulnerable. Yeah.
And so for Zeron and Qiyou, as producers, when you're working on projects like these, especially for independent films, how do you go about supporting the directors and the creatives like Zita? Because I imagine one of your main jobs is to like keep them going, like if there's ever moments of doubt, or just like if they have like issues, I think like maybe starting out the story or the path, like what is your process as producers once you've gotten onto the project and you figured out, okay, this is the direction we're going, this is how it's going to go, like what do you do, and like how do you go about doing all of that?
Once I get onto a project as producer, I think my vision should focus on what's the best to do for the project, instead of what's the best to do for this person or that person. So like many people will make requests, and many people have visions. There are very good visions. Sometimes they come together, sometimes they're different from each other. But I, as a producer, especially a creative producer, I have to see like based on my knowledge, what is the best for the project. So a lot of that coming with being fair and being very fair and being very very. Sometimes you need to be very brave to voice your opinion. Just call out things that you think isn't right when the production or the creativity is going to a direction that may be risky, and then pull that back and or at least have a conversation about it. And always listen to each key crew member's wants. Like if let's say if there's something happening, always hear why you're mentioning it. Like what is your real want behind this surface that you're mentioning, and we can figure that out together. And I think that's the very interesting part. Being a producer, it's more like telling a story, being an artist at the same time. You're also, using the other side of your brain and being very logical and practical.
I think the most important thing is trust. We trust each other. We have our script written, and in that story, we all have something to say, and we have something to express. So, for example, we trust our director. We have his vision, we have his thoughts about the story and our film, and we just do everything we have to support it. And this story comes out from Zita. We have her true emotion in it. That makes us keep this film going. Throughout these scenes, we all can tell that what we think actually makes this film better. So from production side, we have to get us on the road that we all want to walk in. And that's something that is kind of hard to say, but that's what we need to do. Yeah.
Yeah, get everyone united. I think, like Zeron said, it's like always trust each other. Get everyone like. I think as long as our hearts are together, then nothing is a real difficulty for us. Yes. Yeah.
So I want to get a bit into the motifs of the film because to me there's these what's the word I'm looking for? These visual motifs of that become through lines throughout the film, like for instance the dead rat, or I find that baby focuses a lot on the macabre, or like death a bit. So I wanted to discuss a bit about that and like what's the symbolism for the rat, because I think it's like the film starts out with her playing with this dead rat, and then it switches to a scene of her cooking meat. And like when it comes to films, especially horrors, like when you see someone playing with a dead animal switches to meat, it kind of like immediately sets you up, and you're just like, you know what? How dark will this film get? And so I just so I wanted to ask you about the dark undertones to the film, because it does have, to me, baby seems to be very fascinated with things having a dark nature. With no offense to Fox, he kind of does. I kind of saw that as one of the things that drew her to him as well, where because the first time she sees him, he's like beating someone, and it seems that she's drawn to this dark side of people, or just fascinated by it.
I feel like speaking of the like rats, like pig reference, and even like for Fox, how his name is named, I feel like coming down to like animalism, I wanted to emphasize in this story, because when I first moved to the States, I didn't speak English. I couldn't communicate. I feel like that, I guess like animalistic sides of me really came out, because I need to like connect with my friends. So I was like, thinking in my head, baby can reference like as a cat, like a wounded cat. And it's like her in her little forest, like wandering around, going on different adventures. I think the red, it just like ties into her cat like personality. Like, kind of curious and adventurous, but also like vulnerable.
She has to recognize every animal in this jungle to make her life better.
It's true. Say life is a jungle, but it's true.
Yeah, because when I didn't speak English, whenever someone said something to me, all I heard is like, it's like I heard it feels like they're barking or like yelling or just like honking, because I
get it.
So when
I get it. Like when I first moved to Toronto, because Toronto is a multicultural city, and like you hear people, like I would get on the bus and the train, like I've hearing different languages on the TV is very different to hearing them in real life, actually. And like when I got on the bus and I started hearing people speaking in Tagalog, Mandarin, Cantonese, French, Spanish, Portuguese, over time you learn to differentiate between the languages, but at first it's like a cacophony and your brain is trying to process this sound that you're not used to.
Very, very true. Like, someone could be saying hello, but in my head I heard is meow.
Very nice.
It's true.
Although we didn't understand those languages, but we can still feel in those emotions. And that's something I believe she wants to express by this film.
I guess, the brave choice we all made together was translate language into animal sounds to emphasize, how foreign she was.
No, I get it, because like for me, because the area that I work, because I work part-time at a public school, or what did before this pandemic, but like that area is predominantly Asian. So there's a lot of like Mandarin and Cantonese and Tagalog and Vietnamese and those kind of different languages that we're hearing. And someone once asked me, how are you able to tell the difference, especially between Chinese and Mandarin? I'm like, I can tell the difference between Mandarin and Cantonese because Cantonese always sounds like people are arguing, and Mandarin sounds like people have water in their mouth. And that's how I took classes in Mandarin, and that was how my teacher explained it to me. She was like, how do you get it? She's like, how do you get this? How are you getting this so easy? I'm like, well, I'm imagining that I'm holding water in my mouth. And she's like, that's exactly it. So I get what you, I get
Fantastic.
it. So I get it. So like one of the other motifs that you mentioned, the fox, and where we get the visual cues of the actual literal fox is through cartoons. So I wanted to ask about the choice of using cartoons to because you mentioned animals, but I think it was interesting that you used a cartoon to get that. And also Babies has this thing where she relates to the world through a lens, like she wants to be a filmmaker, but like a lot of her memories, some which I'm still not sure are real or not, are done through a camera, whether either she's filming or taking pictures. So I wanted to ask you about the concept of Baby seeing the world through the lens from yourself as a writer, and then from you guys as filmmakers, but then also the technicalities of actually filming these scenes, because I imagine you have to script out exactly which scenes are going to be done through a camera, and then actually film these other actions that we are as the audience will be seeing, kind of like not breaking the fourth wall, but in through separated through like two different lenses.
I'll talk about the motif box, and then you can talk about the technical part. So I guess in Chinese, it goes back to Chinese mythology, because going back, there's a saying called "foxy lady," 狐狸精, which translate to like someone who's extremely sexy will steal your soul. And we wanted to reverse the gender stereotype in Baby Don't Cry, because in Chinese saying, the 狐狸精, the foxy person, is always a woman. But in this story, the foxy person is actually a boy. And when the fox appears, kind of foreshadowing that Baby is going to lose her virginity, and really, wakes her like a sexual, sexual, part of her. So yeah, that's where I landed on the fox part.
Yeah, so like you said that, it just occurred to me. So like he's basically kind of the male version of a kitsune or a gumio, because in in Japanese it's the kitsune, and in Korean mythology. It's the Kumyo with the nine-tailed fox.
Oh,
So yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like interesting to see Vas. So I was like, this is the first today I know that
Yeah, this is actually the first time I heard of that. But I always felt weirdly foxy through the whole thing. So that's pretty
I
cool.
think in the end, when Fox transformed into a cartoon character, referencing, like everything happens for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. Sometimes some people just meant to be in our life for a period of time to help us grow up. But in the end, we have to carry on this journey. We have to grow up on our own. So in the end, baby realized she needs to leave Seattle. She needs to get on her own by herself. She has to rely on herself truly. So, but the influence Fox had on her will forever follows her.
Okay.
And in this film, we have our screens represent something, like sometimes the high A camera shooting the death scenes to her father. Sometimes we have this great memories of her making a mark of her life. And at the end of the movie, we have this 2D animation in this film, in this TV, and she walk into the room. We at the end of the film, we want this 2D animation from her childhood, good memories coming out of the screen, and actually making her life better. So this screening time all through our film to make audience feel like, oh, this really makes this girl feeling something that reminds her memory, that bring her real life, and give her the strength to fight with the tough life, and getting along with her father.
I'm very curious how audience would respond to whether Fox is real or not, because I think that's one of the reasons you should go watch the movies, because we try to keep it vague. It's like eventually some people think Vas character Fox is a fantasized person. It's just from her the footage that she watched when she was really young, or he is a real person. It's kind of it's kind of hard to tell. So I'm like suggesting audience to watch it, and I really want to hear how audience feel about, do they think it's real or not.
Yeah.
When we were making the film, this was a question for us as well. So we actually opened the mind for everything, and make everything put it together for this girl. This girl, baby, actually feeling like she is experiencing these things, and our audience can also experience it as well.
Yeah, it's definitely an open ending.
Yeah.
It is you're saying that Fox may not be real. The final scene involving the mother, right at the scene that happens right after, where she's laying on the ground. I'm like, hold on, oh wait,
Right?
like, was he really there too? Because he
Think
kind
about it.
he kind of disappears the same way her mom disappears, or like the tone changes. I was like, hold on, maybe everything isn't made up. But Qiyou, can you talk a bit about the technical, like I was saying, the technical aspect of filming those scenes? Because it always fascinates me when we have films with characters who are filming things, and for actors like for Vas and Zita, like they have to kind of to me almost play like two separate characters, because there's the characters that are being filmed by like each other, and then there's the characters that we, the audience, see me on the main screen. So could you just tell me a bit about the technicality of filming those scenes?
Definitely. Yeah, thank you for being so detailed, because there are two portions of the high footage. One part is we shot them on set while we were shooting, while they were acting on camera, on the actual digital camera. They were like recording each other, and we used it in the editing. And the other part of the high footage are pre-shoot. Like we shot it several days before the actual shoot, and we have to, it's like a different setting, and we have to like cheat it as we shot it on the day. So it depends on the content. And yeah, I think eventually using the part that is shot on set are definitely like more authentic, and they were more engaged. Like I can see the vulnerability in both of their eyes, and they were like really involving with each other, especially for the trip to Seattle. They had a moment going to Seattle, the market in Seattle, and having fun and games over there. And I really like that part. I think that's and before we didn't mean to have that in that part of the film, but we just, because it's so sparkling and brilliant, we just like thinking having it there, just a good real moment for their relationship. So we just added there. Yeah. So like I think relying on improvisation is very important for all these high-end footages, and all the thank for the talent to giving their best and letting it out. Like many scenes are actually improvised on set, and many things are even written based on their performance. It's really good.
And Vas, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah. Well, I just had this thought. Well, something I really wanted to commend, the production on was, I feel one thing that I really love in movies is like very strong subtext, where like you can feel stuff going on off screen based on how the characters are acting, on screen. And like in scenes where like Fox would get really mad at Baby and she doesn't really know why, if you were to go through the film and kind of like look at the little details of what's going on, you could actually see like a perfectly legitimate reason why not legitimate reason, but his reason for why he would be upset. And like that's just due to very strong subtext. And that's something that also like I really, really loved about this script when I read it. I was like, there's so much going on off screen that you can feel happening when these characters are together.
I agree. Yeah, I that's the reason why I love the script too. It doesn't feed audience too much, so that give the credits to the audience.
No, it's true, because a lot of like I was saying, like for majority of the film, like I do wonder if like half or even like 60% of everything that we're seeing has actually taken place, because something I noticed with Baby is that she only has direct interactions with certain characters. And then like in these interactions, like people around them don't react like the way you would expect them to react. So you're thinking, is this just a conversation that's taking place in her mind? And are these interactions taking place in her mind? Because like if I see like, for instance, a fight, like I would be like looking around, but then other people are just like walking past. I'm like, okay, so no one is gonna react to this situation, like the scenes with the other female students at the school when they're being extremely mean to Baby. Everyone is reacting like not normal. But then I'm thinking, but then this could also be a commentary on how prevalent racism is in America too. So that's I wanted to ask about those scenes in particular, where like as you mentioned, like they're kind of like ambiguous and being left up to the audience for interpretation.
I guess I think that's also going back to like how we feel and what's truly happening, and especially to Baby. And at that tender age, she's still trying to figure out who she is. She's still trying to make sense of everything. So when things just like happen to her, but to us it's just like it's like a huge deal, but to her, maybe she's like so used to like living in that kind of environment, so she's like gradually just like toned out parts of
Yeah, she's kind of like desensitized there to all of it.
Yeah. I think it also has to do with her upbringing and the environment she's in.
I want to talk a bit about Baby's relationship with her parents. Her mom is there. I still don't know how I feel about her mom, because again, and this is something that I'm stick on, because because you're not sure if this is real or not. I don't know how to feel about her mom. I'm like, this woman has like moments where she's extremely harsh and mean to baby, but then there's a moments where she's being soft like when she brushes her hair, and it kind of makes you and I'm just like, but is it fair of me to judge a character who might not necessarily be real either? So I just think it's interesting how her parents, and then her dad is just like this, I think, a true figment of her imagination, because we don't really see him as a real person. Like we again see him through the lens, and through her, like these flashbacks that she has. So just speak a bit about her, about first and first casting the actors to play the parents, and then also just like working with them in these scenes, because sometimes I always wonder when it comes to scenes that are so harsh, like how are they able to, the actors able to process, like, you know, being able to say these extremely mean and hurtful things to other people. Yes, it's like they're acting, but still, this is just me. I'm just like, I would be like afterwards, I'd be like, no, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean that.
Thank you so much for asking all those questions. I was in the casting room when we casted Mommy, and I feel like, I don't know, maybe this just like connection. When I first saw her, we did a lot of chemistry tests. You know, we were not reading the script. We were just like, you know, talking our daily life, and very soon I just had this connection with Mommy. I guess the mom here is like a metaphor, because that this is just not like only to immigrants, to everyone, to every teenager. When we grow up, we have to go through a phase where we cut the ties with our old self, and realize, you know, what's not working in our life, realize, you know, what gives us strength, and what parts of ourselves we can carry on to the next journey. And I think, you know, at least for me, and I assume for a lot of people too, you know, during that 17, 18 come of age time, we experience, you know, events where we realize, you know, this is not working. This is not what I want in life. I have to walk away from this no matter what. I think the Mommy here, it really serves as a metaphor, you know, how tough but also how necessary it is to walk away with certain things.
We were come up with this idea. We want to give audience a mixed feeling that this girl love his mom, but also hates her mom, and in that mixed feeling, we actually come up to those scenes strictly making baby no matter hating her or just touch her head with actually real feeling that actually parents want to feel.
I think hate is a little bit strong here. I definitely agree with the love part. I think it's more like just, you know, sometimes you realize certain things or certain people in your life are just very emotionally draining, and you're just very frustrated with the situation, but you don't know quite how to walk away from it.
I was just want to comment on Helen, the talent for mother. She was giving her 100%, and especially for the eating spaghetti or eating noodle scene. And it was really, she really put everything out of herself for that scene. And I was away in the production office while we were shooting that scene. And then I heard the conversation, and I just have to get out. I thought there was an actual big argue, and I have to solve problems. So I had to set. And then I realized everyone was extremely quiet and just observing her. And everyone was concentrating, just looking at her eating noodle, that scene. Like, that was really amazing. I really, really, really appreciate that she gave her, like, even willing to let us put in the pig ear, like doing the, you know, the cosmetics and everything that is so different from her everyday look, because she looks gorgeous in real life. And I really appreciate she sacrificed that for the art, and also the performance. It was really great.
Something that's always so interesting about, you know, acting is like someone could play a character who's so vile, you know, and like someone like Mommy, who has like the, you know, propensity to be so, you know, like you said, harsh, but, you know, the actor is always so different. Helen is like the like funniest, awesomest like person, and like hanging out with her like behind the scenes or like on, at base camp. Like she has so many stories and she has such an interesting life, and like you could listen to her talk like all day. So it's always, I think as far as too, you talked about like doing hard scenes between actors. I think it's important that when you do like these really emotional or volatile kind of scenes, you do have to check in with the person, because it's about it's about the character, but we're bringing ourselves to it, and we're still human beings. We're absorbed into, we retain the words and feelings of others, even if it's acting. So that's, I think that comes down to just working with people who you do trust, who you respect, and we created an environment where everyone could kind of have the freedom to do those scenes and still feel respected and trusted, and at the end of the day have dinner together and laugh and enjoy each other.
I think what really helps mommy character come through is the vulnerability Helen brought into this character, because I had a lot of conversations with Helen, because she has 2 teenage daughters in real life, and they were just talking about how, like, I know it sounds a little bit selfish, but how unwillingly she is to let her daughters go to college and go to school and grow up. And I just feel like that sensibility is something I really cherish in mommy character, because she loves baby. It just, her husband wasn't in the picture, and she's an immigrant herself. She doesn't speak English fully, so she's like living in this very like traumatic environment. So I just feel like yeah.
For the script, we also set it up the environment for mom, as her husband is gone, and she only has her only daughter around her side, and the daughter needs to take care of her because her mind isn't clear. So she just doesn't want her daughter to get away with this environment.
Yeah,
She wants to hold her as the only thing that she left in the world.
Yeah.
I think is mother love for sure, but also like how like insecure and how vulnerable like mommy truly is.
When you say vulnerable, it kind of does. I think that's kind of shown literally, because there's, I think, quite a bit, like probably like 4 scenes where she's seen laying on the ground, and you're wondering if she's physically disabled. And then so when you think about baby leaving, again, if she is real, it's like baby's leaving her mother in this extremely vulnerable state, and there's no one to look after her mom, and it just makes you wonder like how to the end of their rope so a character like baby has to be to like to take that step and that leap and say, I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna pursue my dreams, but I'm also gonna have to take the risk that I'm leaving you in a precarious situation, in a situation you might not be able to get yourself out of. Because I find, especially for a lot of ethnic cultures, like we're taught from very young to respect our elders and our parents, and like a lot of our not, I wouldn't say our life, but a lot of our time and effort has to go in to being dedicated to our parents and to looking after our parents. And then when there comes a time where you say no, like they're super shocked. They're like, oh, what? Like, and so it's kind of like that moment for her where I imagine where she's fighting against, like, again, like her own cultural heritage and her upbringing to take that step for herself.
Absolutely. I interview like certain like Asian moms, and that's
right.
When they read the script, they were like, that's how I felt every time my daughter or my kids leave.
The betrayal.
I just like lay on the ground like that's how I felt.
It's true.
We also added more points into the story because the dad was actually the guy who lived this home, sweet home, and making this family a breaking one that makes baby want to get in the happy time with the dad. So in her memories, the dad's having fun with him and was the only thing that baby remembers, but not the living that he took.
Yeah.
And she also want to memory him by taking how to say
Taking
Like video.
the praying for him.
praying.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Mm.
to remember.
But it's true. I think for kids, especially if they're from, especially from a difficult home, like if like for instance, like her dad left, so she created kind of like this alternate reality and her own perception of him, and she's focusing only on the good stuff, and her mom is the one that's there, and like everything isn't as good at home as it should be, so she's seeing the mom in a more negative light than the dad, because the dad isn't there for her to take her frustrations out on, which I think is something that is super fascinating that kids do, like how kids are able to compartmentalize
Sure.
like trauma.
Thank you so much for bringing that up. I feel like that's what I noticed happen in a lot of immigrant family is the dad is always working like in the way, and the mom is sometimes at home doing chores, and that create a lot of misunderstanding. So we think the dad, like
That is good.
for the wife thinks my husband doesn't care about me, he's just all about making money, and the daughter's like, why is my mom so frustrated, why is she always yelling at dad is so nice. So I think that's something I really wanted to bring out in Baby Don't Cry.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kids only see what they see from their limited understanding. They don't really get the nuances.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a good point, because we actually shot the footage of dad actually trying to attempted suicide and attempted to commit suicide, and baby actually witnessed that scene, but we eventually didn't use it. That was because because I really enjoy the pattern that Zita just mentioned. Like in the family, it's like mom is always bad, dad is always good. From baby's perspective, then dad shouldn't be seen doing something that is so dark and depressed.
Is that why she's also so drawn to Fox? Because he's kind of like a stand-in for her dad, and also because I'm thinking that it's not occurring to me
You
that
got it.
yeah, because I'm thinking now, because she only sees the mom in a negative light and she sees the dad in a positive light, but the mom has seen and experienced the dark side of the dad. But Fox to me is now, and I'm thinking about, it's kind of like a stand-in for that, where she's kind of like recognizing, because like for we as an audience, we don't know that like the dad would have attempted suicide, that she sees that, but from like the character written, she would have seen that. So the only reference of a dark male character we have in her life is Fox, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
I feel like we end up kind of I mean that I don't know if this is just a theory or if it's proven, but the partners that we look for, we end up kind of looking for traits of our parents in them, because they kind of satisfy that need inside of us that we had at a young age, in a way. And I think it's just the most important thing is that through their relationship, to me, for Fox and Baby, it's like they just taught each other. They taught each other how to be better people. And I think whether or not Fox was like real, I think that he came to like a certain catharsis at the end, where he did something that was like truly selfless, and so and Baby taught him that. So that to me is like that's the that's the most important thing. That's the point.
Yeah. I think we have to wrap up now, but again, just before we go, is there anything that any of you would like to say about the film, and basically what do you want people to take out of the story? Because because I think so much of it can be left up to interpretation. What's one definitive thing each of you want the audience to take out of the film? One thing, definitive. You're just, this is it. This is not up for interpretation.
No pressure.
Wait, Zita goes first, right?
I'll let Zita go first for this one.
Okay.
I got all the pressure on me. I guess one audience to take away from it is remember who you are, and always believe in yourself, and just remember, who you were, and what happened to you in your past shapes who you are. Don't be ashamed. Yeah.
I like that.
Mhm.
Zeron?
For me, I think audience can take their emotions into this film and think about it, how this goes, and you will find more pieces that you might find in your life.
Vas.
I think, to me, I've learned recently the most important thing in life is to know what you want. When you know what you want, you can begin yourself on a path to achieving it, or to just going in somewhat in that direction, and I think if I'd want anyone to take away any kind of message, it's just like, if you want change, if you want anything in life, you have to know who you are and know that you want it, and then you can begin going for it.
To me, it's definitely an extremely different film. Like, I wouldn't ever imagine that I made a movie that looked like this with a group of talented people. So I would suggest audience just go watch it and find out, because it's gonna premiere at Fantasia on August 11th, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Just go check it out if there's a link.
I think it will be available for both virtual and in-person screenings, and this will be up before I think that that we'll publish this before it premieres during the festival. But thank you so much, all of you, for speaking with me today. I really enjoyed this conversation about the film. And there were things that I didn't really understand. I'm fully open to admitting that, but you've helped me to understand certain aspects of the film that I didn't really understand and get, which is one of the reasons I love speaking to film creatives about their films, because it gives me more context. And again, I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me so much today.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the conversation.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Carolyn Talks for the So Here's What Happened podcast. This has been a discussion with the lead performers and producers of Baby Don't Cry, a film that is premiering at the 2021 Fantasia Film Festival. You can find this film as well as many others on the Fantasia Fest website, and you can purchase tickets for virtual screenings if you so like. You can also check out my tweets about the films that I'm watching and on my Twitter and Instagram at CarrieCNH12, that's CarrieCNH12. You can find many of my other coverage for Fantasia Fest on the butwhythepodcast.com site, as well as my YouTube channel. You can find more of my film coverage apart from the film festivals on my Arthur page under my name, Carolyn Hinds, that's Hinds. And again, thank you so much for listening to this episode, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please, everyone, stay safe and have a good day.